Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we discover a fourth podcast host living in my basement. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including, of course, Byleth from Fire Emblem Three Houses coming to Smash Ultimate. And then on Thursday, we are going to be ranking all of the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate DLC and Mii Fighter costumes. Sorry, there were a lot of words there. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm actually really excited, and we'll get into it when we start talking about what we've been playing. But I finally finished a playthrough of Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Mark, you have surpassed me because I have not yet finished my own playthrough.
I'm feeling pretty good about it because I had sworn that I wasn't going to buy another game until I had finished it. What a relief that I can start buying games I'm not going to play again, right?
I'm sure we've talked about this, but that's so funny where it's like, do a fun thing and I will reward myself with another fun thing. I'm sure we talked about this, but when I was a child and Super Mario Bros. 3 came out, in fact, we probably heard about it on that episode that we recorded in 1991, that I wanted Super Mario Bros. 3, and my dad was like, I'll buy it for you if you learn how to ride a bike.
That is tough parenting.
It is tough,
and it's
parenting.
Got you to where you are today.
It worked.
Yeah.
I rode that bike, and I got Super Mario Bros. 3.
That feels like such a dad thing. Look, I don't know your dad, but it feels like such a dad thing to be like, no son of mine's not going to ride a bike.
I mean, I think that's what it was. So in 1991, I would have been 9, right? So like, it's about time I should learn to ride a bike without training wheels, right?
Right.
So like, he was right. I should learn how to ride a bike. It's good for me. You know what else is good for me? Sonic Force's borrowing
it's like eating
program.
Your vegetables.
That's right. Look, if you want to punish yourself so that all other games feel better, Sonic Forces, you can borrow my copy of it. All you have to do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com with a mailing address where I can send this game to you. You play it for as long as you want, and then you send it back. It costs you nothing.
Nothing.
And it's the perfect borrowing program. It's out right now, pleasing or displeasing one of our listeners.
Or being completely forgettable. Like maybe a listener forgot that they had it.
And look, we're not throwing shade at anyone right now.
No, we're not.
I'm not. It's not even been gone for too long.
No, we've never lost faith
time
in the program. There was like a 6-month stretch.
Yeah, I did lose faith in the program.
Briefly.
Yeah.
But in a triumphant moment, it was returned to us.
Right. So
it remains the perfect program.
Yeah, absolutely perfect. Still email us and get on the list, and someday you too can play Sonic Forces. Mark, are you ready to get into what we've been playing this week?
Yes.
So, okay, congratulations are in order for both of us, I believe. Mark, let's properly celebrate your accomplishment of Fire Emblem Three Houses.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am happy to report that there are only 22 chapters.
Yeah.
And the game, and the game really picks up steam.
Oh, then I'm really near the end.
Oh,
then.
Are you? Oh, you
don't remember?
I mean, there's only 22 chapters.
It's been 6 months since I started on.
It. Like the calendar really slims down, so it's very easy to just like speed through the last couple of last couple of months. But yeah, it feels great. I have to admit, the end, like story wise, at least for the Blue Lion's house, which is what I was playing, I feel like nothing about like the conclusion of the story, which is not really what I was expecting. It definitely wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but maybe looking back, like, was inevitable that the conclusion is what it is.
Interesting. I sort of, from where I am somewhere after the time jump, almost view everything that's happening, like in the present, after the time jump as like the epilogue to like that the real story is the tragedy of like these 3 houses falling apart. And then everything that comes after it is awesome. but it feels like the story, like the
Mhm.
big unified story, happened already.
The like we've been talking about before, I am so interested in going back and playing the other two houses at some point to learn like how it concludes there, because I'm guessing it like the conclusion is different depending
Yeah.
on like whose perspective you have. And actually maybe like the events in like of the back half in entirety
Yeah.
play out completely differently. But I really liked it. I like the experience was definitely worthwhile, even if like the conclusion I'm left a little. I guess I just don't like feel anything about.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, you can use New Game Plus to jump right back in and start like a whole new game, which I am eager to do, but I put it aside for now. And I did start Dragon Quest 11S.
Woo!
Echoes of a Elusive Age Definitive Edition.
Thank you.
For the Nintendo Switch. I'm not very far. I'm maybe like 30 minutes in or whatever.
Yeah.
But it feels
Almost nothing you've
right.
experienced so
Yeah,
far. Yeah,
exactly. But it feels a little bit overwhelming to be back at like the clunky part of an RPG.
Yeah.
Where you're like learning the systems and like all that kind of stuff. One thing that I think is super funny that I like is that they have like these like platforming mechanics, kind of like your character can jump. But the physics of it and the way he jumps is so funny to me, because he
jumps like straight up.
He jumps like straight up,
like 7 feet in the air.
It's so weird. It looks so weird.
It does. It looks bizarre, and also like they make a point to be like, jump up on these crates and like get on the roof and like get over to the other thing, and like you do that in the opening town and in like the first time you go to Heliodor Castle, and then like it kind of goes away.
Oh, I'm actually glad.
Yeah,
because I dreading that there was going to be like sections where like the platforming mattered.
Yeah,
because
there aren't.
Not good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a really beautiful game. I'm very excited to get further into it. I'm already sick of the music, even though it's orchestrated.
Yeah.
It's just like really repetitive.
Yeah, especially early in the game, that it hits you with the same kind of repetitive music tracks. When you start getting into like different dungeons and like when the encounter music starts to like get shuffled up a little bit, that's always better. And when you're hitting these like bigger story beats that are like that where the music is like bespoke for that scene specifically, that's when it's like really good.
One thing I'm not sure on is in the battles themselves, you can like run around.
Nothing happens.
Oh, okay. There's no
nothing.
Okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
I turned that ability off.
Oh, okay.
You can toggle that off in the options.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was like something I was supposed to be doing, like somewhere I was supposed to be using that to enhance the battles or anything.
I also right away went in and turned the like battle text speed all the way up, just to make all of that stuff happen, faster.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Did I already mention this game is really beautiful? I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I think so too. Is a very good looking game. Mark, I'm going to say, can I have congratulations now?
Yeah, I mean, big congratulations for your accomplishment that I'm not sure what it is yet.
My accomplishment, which Mark is not sure what it is yet, is I was playing Tetris 99 last week in Invictus mode, because Mark told me that I have to start playing in Invictus mode. I did, and I got a Tetris Maximus in Invictus mode.
Oh, yeah,
Thank
big
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's huge.
Yeah. Felt great. Also felt a little bit crazy. It was like a day where I played maybe like 2 straight hours of Tetris. And so was seeing Tetris blocks falling in front of me, when I closed my eyes.
Was like the end of it really stressful?
No, it was one of them where like it just, and a lot of wins actually do come this way, where like at the end you're just sort of like plugging away, doing what you do, and like the blocks are falling fast, but they've been falling fast for 10 minutes. And then it's just like dun dun dun, you're like, oh, I've won. But there were tense moments, earlier in the thing where I got very like high up to the top of the board and kind of battled my way back down.
That's awesome.
Yep, it felt great. I also started playing Bastion, which is a game that it's a much older game that I downloaded when it was like $1.50 or something during one of these sales. And it's fun. Do you know Bastion at all?
Not really.
So it's got like an isometric overhead view kind of thing going on, and it's a little bit like hack and slashy, where you've got one like a ranged weapon and a close-up weapon, and then like a special move mapped to like one of the triggers, and you just kind of go around this world, and the world kind of like populates as you are walking over it, like the things kind of like rise up from like the ether, and there is a near constant voiceover from like a grizzled old man who's like, the boy didn't know what was in store for him, and it's a little bit, the narration, it's an interesting feature of the game, in that like they have all of this stuff recorded for like all these specific like contextual things, where it's like there was a part of the game where I was just like beating up on like the scenery for a little while, like making barrels explode, and the voiceover is like, the boy raged against nothing, working out his anger, something like, it knows what you're doing and like has something to say about it, which is cool and interesting, but it's just so like, I'm a grizzled old man and we're at the end of the world and no one can, so like I don't know, that combined with the aesthetic, which is kind of cute, like you just pulled it up, right? And, that like it seems a little bit incongruous to me. I'm gonna keep playing it for a while, but yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, I had to look it up because I feel like the developer has a good reputation.
Yeah, it's super massive. So
or super giant.
Super giant.
Yeah.
Yes. They also did
like Transistor.
Yeah, they did Transistor, and then the like sports game. What's it? Pyre. From maybe just last year. And Pyre is a game that I would really be interested in playing it if it ever comes to Switch. Just because I hear such good things.
Wait, it's a sports game, but it's like high fantasy. Is that right?
Yes, Pyre. Yeah.
Pyre.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but so I'm playing a little bit of that.
Cool.
All right, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
Another quiet week for new releases. On Thursday, January 23rd, we get 2 new entries in the Sega Ages series. Shinobi and Fantasy Zone are both released.
There's another Warhammer 40,000 game coming out then, too. This one is Space Wolf.
And then Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is also released.
Oh.
So the Warhammer games, what are they exactly? Do you know? Are they like tactical games?
I think they're all different. Like I think that the Warhammer, obviously Warhammer and Warhammer 40K are in like the real world are a like tabletop strategy game.
Right.
But I think in terms of video games that they're all different. Like some of them are shooters and some of them are tactical games. I think the only Warhammer game that I've ever played is a spin-off of Warhammer 40K called Space Hulk, and that is based on, it's like a spin-off of the strategy game is a board game called Space Hulk, and then they made that into a video game. So I don't really know anything about Warhammer.
But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I sort of feel like we are hurting for, I know we had a like Nindy showcase in like December or something, like,
yeah, I think early January. I think it was not that long ago.
Yeah,
or was it December?
I don't
know.
Remember. The calendar seems so wide open as far as like Nintendo releases, and releases on Switch, that like I don't know when. Like we're in a drought period right now, but I have no concept for when that drought period will end. Animal Crossing, is that it?
Yeah, I mean, like Devil May Cry 3 or 2, one of them.
Yeah,
3 is coming to Switch in February. I feel like there's some other like kind of like releases like that.
Yeah,
like
Final Fantasy
remasters
Crystal
coming
Chronicles is coming out there, and
but I completely agree. It does feel like we're all just kind of biding time for Animal Crossing.
Well, let's play some transition music as we continue to bide time. Now it's time for a regular segment on this show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments performance in 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, would you please introduce the topic?
Yeah, so
and I saw you just made a last second change to the topic.
Yeah,
okay,
which
go.
might change things.
Yeah.
So we can only keep one.
Yes.
Of the following.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. The rest of them get wiped out from existence. It is between Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Jurassic Park, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and Garfield.
Right. Okay.
The cat, not the president.
Let's say both.
Sure,
let's say both.
So goes one.
So goes as goes one,
yes.
So goes the other.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to start by saying that I feel like there's an easy answer for both of us.
Yeah.
That like if we can only keep one, it's probably going to be Star Wars, right?
Yeah, I think you're right. For us, for sure.
For us personally, so I almost feel like we should remove that from the equation.
Okay.
Because then it becomes more difficult.
I think that's true. Okay, so that's fair. So Star Wars continues to exist. Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Jurassic Park, Garfield, both the cat and the president, and the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Right. Now, it is important to note that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, Marvel Comics, if Marvel Cinematic Universe no longer exists, the comics do still exist.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I'm also going to say that for as much as I like Jurassic Park, there is one good Jurassic Park movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are 2 Jurassic World movies.
Right.
Right?
Right. Oh, right. So are we saying, well...
I feel like Jurassic Park as a whole, we have to take the franchise holistically,
yeah,
right?
So like World would be part of...
Yeah. World would be part of that. The Sega Genesis game where you can play as the Raptor is part of that. The Super Nintendo game.
The theme park ride.
Yep. The books. That's all part of that.
Same with Harry Potter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Garfield.
So we would lose the comic strip. We would lose Garfield and Friends. We would lose Garfield and Garfield: The Tale of Two Kitties. Right.
Yeah, we have to really think of the ramifications.
Right, and then the president,
which I mean, we'll assume that there's no butterfly effect.
Yes,
that
yes,
everything
exactly.
would continue on as normal.
Right.
If President Garfield was replaced by President Odie. And then
a reference no one would understand in a universe without Garfield.
So maybe I have to keep it just for that fact. Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I think this is an interesting one to start on.
Okay.
Because I enjoyed the movies
and
I enjoyed reading the books while I was like, I think it was between Two Towers and Return of the King, or maybe I read them between Fellowship of the Rings and Two Towers.
Yeah.
I hadn't read them before. I think we'd listened to like The Hobbit on a car trip on like Book on Tape, but I did not understand. It was just a like thing.
Well, let me ask you this: if Lord of the Rings is removed, is this all like Middle Earth stuff? Does The Hobbit also go, and the Hobbit movies?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Or do we just say that like we're removing this piece of it? I mean, the Hobbit movies wouldn't have happened in the same way if like the Lord of the Ring movies didn't exist.
So what if we just say that the Lord of the Rings books were never written, and therefore everything that comes to the Lord of the Rings, so like just the Hobbit would still exist.
Yeah.
Which is the Hobbit book is probably my favorite of every piece of Lord of the Rings.
I tried rereading Lord of the Rings like
it's
a few
impossible.
years ago. I did find it really difficult, which was surprising to me because I remember when I had read them originally, in between one of the movies, I really, really liked it, and so I don't know why this time I found it really difficult to get into.
Okay, we are running out of time.
Oh, okay.
So I'm just gonna say Jurassic Park is out for me. I'm also gonna look. I had Garfield's book.
Garfield.
Insults, put downs, and slams, but it's got to go.
Lord of the Rings. I'm gonna say
let's toss it because then we can get rid of those awful Hobbit movies.
Yeah, I think so too.
Which just comes down to Harry Potter versus the MCU.
So Harry Potter, the books and the movies, I really like. Anything outside of it, including J.K. Rowling, I am not so much a fan with. So I think
MCU.
I think so.
Wow. That's very surprising. And we didn't even really get to talk about the MCU, but you can check out earlier episodes in 2 separate 433s where we try to remember the order of the movies in the MCU.
Yeah.
Oh, no. Okay, we were accompanied today by pianist Kyle Shaw. Mark, let's get into the news.
Hey, last week there was a Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Direct kind of thing. Basically just like a Sakurai reveals.
Yep. This is the second week in a row where Mark and I record an episode on Monday. Tuesday morning, Nintendo announces a Direct for Thursday, and then we talk about it on next Tuesday's episode.
Well, it really just gives
Maybe
us...
it'll happen again next week.
It just really gives us more time
Yeah.
to... we're not reacting with our guts. We're really like letting it settle in. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
that's right. It really just like sits, it becomes a part of our biome,
Yes.
right? And then we've got bacterias, we've got, all kinds of things like working away, grinding at it. And then when we get to talking about it, we know what we want to say.
Exactly. So last Thursday, Nintendo hosted a 45-minute long presentation revealing the 5th DLC character for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. And this is also the final character in the original Fighters Pass. So this was, for the longest time, all the DLC we thought we were getting.
Yep. And was, we were waiting on the deadline that we knew of February 2020. The last character was going to be out by. It turns out that the character is going to be out by or on January 28th. And the character, of course, is Byleth from Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Yes. And Sakurai is once again his charming self.
Yes. So charming.
Just taking time to teach us about binary and counting on one hand.
Yeah, and I saw a little bit of an uproar in that he seems to be using binary in like the opposite way of how it's normally.
Oh, really?
That he started with an open hand and then started doing. I don't really understand how it works to count in binary, but binary, so it's a series of on and off, right? But so he would start with an open hand and then like bring a finger down to indicate like the change between 0 and 1, whereas most binary counting starts with a closed fist, and that's your 0, and 1 is like a pinky or whatever.
Oh, interesting. Well, I mean, everybody was so happy with the rest of the presentation that must have been the thing everybody glommed onto.
Okay, so I look. There was a lot of negativity around the announcement of what is perceived to be yet another Fire Emblem character in Smash Brothers. So I wanted to just like, if we could quickly go over like the history of Fire Emblem characters in Smash Brothers, and like we can say that there are too many Fire Emblem characters in Smash, but there's no way that you can say that Byleth is the problem, or including a new Fire Emblem character now is the problem. It's all just a matter of how things accumulate. So the first time we see Fire Emblem characters in Smash is in Melee, the one on GameCube, where Marth is in like the regular lineup. No one knows who Marth is. We're like, what? These games haven't come out in the States. We don't know what this is. Roy is also an unlockable character in Melee, and he is almost an exact clone of Marth. Like kind of just a palette swap, right? So it's an easy thing to do for them to add a little bit more content. So like for all intents and purposes in Melee, Roy isn't a discrete character, right? He's just them giving you a little more content as a fun hidden surprise, right? He's the smoke in Mortal Kombat 1, or Reptile, I guess, in Mortal Kombat 1, smoke in Mortal Kombat 2, maybe Noob Saibot, who knows? Just a palette swap of a character that already exists, right? So skip ahead to Brawl on the Wii. And Roy is not in this game. There is no Roy. Marth returns and is like a little bit different than he was in Melee. But now we've got like a new Fire Emblem character, and it's Ike, who's a heavy sword fighter and was evidently a character type with like a set of moves that Sakurai had developed without knowing what character was going to use those moves, and then was like checking with the Fire Emblem people, and they were like, hey, Radiant Dawn just came out last year, why not use Ike, who's the protagonist of that? He fits that pretty well. Great. So now Marth and Ike, very different characters in Brawl, are like now part of the Smash Brothers universe. Now we skip ahead to Smash 4 on the Wii U and 3DS. Marth and Ike both return, right? And this is so they return as their very like different characters. And then Marth gets a clone again, and we've had clones of Marth before. They were called Roy, right?
Right.
But this time it's Lucina, and Lucina is from Fire Emblem Awakening, which had just come out, a year before or something like that. So it's kind of like it's just a clone of Marth, and it's a clone of Marth using a character that people who had discovered Fire Emblem through Awakening, that they had like a character they could relate to,
which was when
Lucina.
the series exploded.
Yeah, exactly, and likely where a lot of people came to the series in the first place.
Yeah.
The other Fire Emblem character that's introduced in Smash 4 is Robin, who is the protagonist of Awakening. But Robin, he or she, is a magic user. Has a sword maybe, but like that's not. The character doesn't fight like a sword user.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a discrete character. So far, like I don't know where anyone would call foul on like the number of Fire Emblem characters. Then there are two Smash 4 DLC characters from Fire Emblem. One is Roy, right, who was originally a Marth clone. But they brought him back because they were sort of in this vein of like bringing back characters that didn't make it into Smash 4 that had been in previous games. They had already done Mewtwo, and they had done Lucas from Earthbound, or from Mother, I guess. And so like Roy was just them like doing. It's part of the like everybody's here, but what they were doing for DLC. So like Roy's back, and then they like reworked him to be different because you already had the Marth clone, so he couldn't be Marth clone again, so they made him different. And then they also add Corrin, who is the protagonist from Fire Emblem Fates, who, turns into a dragon and has like a weird lance. Again, fights not like is not just another sword dork, basically. Which then, of course, brings us to Ultimate, where it looks like there are 7 Fire Emblem characters. Marth, Lucina, Roy, Chrom, who's new, Ike, Robin, and Corrin. It seems like a lot. Lucina is still just an echo of Marth, and Chrom is an echo of Roy. Chrom, another character from Fire Emblem Awakening. So, like, if someone just came to Fire Emblem with Awakening and they wanted to play with characters who were like Marth and like Roy, they have the option to do so with characters they recognize in Lucina and Chrom. So, I know this is all, like, getting, like, really into the weeds here, but, like, the problem isn't adding Byleth. The problem is that like they just sort of grabbed all the characters from the past that were like fulfilling sort of the same roles, with like little tweaks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That like the problem isn't Corrin, the problem isn't Robin, the problem isn't Byleth. The problem is in like the kind of mess that came before it.
Yeah, and yes, and that there are so many like echoes, I guess. If you even want to say that is a problem.
Yes.
But that's where like a lot of like the when people are like, oh, it's just another Fire Emblem character with a sword.
Yes.
That's kind of where that comes from. I don't know. I'm really jazzed for this.
Yeah, me too.
I think Byleth looks cool. I think that you get to fight with like 4 different they're like, I can't remember what they get.
Are they called the legendary weapons?
Yeah, legendary weapons that each have like different strengths. They really play differently. They're not all just like sword.
Yeah.
Even the sword that you have is
it's
not
more
just,
like whip-like than it is sword-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The level looks really cool.
Yeah, let's talk about the level.
So of course you're playing at the monastery.
Mm-hmm.
At Garreg Mach, and it cycles between 4 different locations. The market has destructible shops on each side, and then Dimitri and my boys in the Blue Lions watch the action. The reception hall has tables that can collapse when fighters are knocked into them, and then like chandeliers that people can climb onto. This is Edelgard and the Black Eagles. And then the bridge is just a wide, empty battlefield where Claude and the Golden Deer are hanging out. And then finally you have the cathedral that has like 2 platforms, but is otherwise pretty much just like Final Destination. And Reyes, Satith, and Flayn are in the background here.
Yeah, so I mean, we're getting, a dozen background characters, 4 different places within one level. Music tracks from Fire Emblem 3 Houses, and Byleth seems like a fun character to use. Like, Sakurai talked about how he's more like kind of zoning focused, and that like a little bit more like Link-esque, I guess, in that like you are controlling the space with projectiles. Feels very much not like another like sword dork to me, but
yeah, I was super pumped for it. I'm very excited for this. I felt so. I found like the whole. I still find the conversation around it so exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Likewise.
Who cares?
Yeah.
Even if you don't like it, like I just cannot fathom getting upset about it.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe because people bought the Fighters Pass,
right?
But like I don't know, I feel like everything, all 4 of the previous characters have been like megaton announcements, maybe with the exception of Terry, who's like more of a head scratcher,
right?
But like is a big deal in the circles. He's a big deal, but like Hero and Joker and Banjo-Kazooie, like. It's dream come true stuff.
Yeah, there's like maybe like you're saying, like the only way I can kind of almost sort of see a point is that you bought the Fighters Pack blind, and so you spent the money on it before you knew what it was, but you knew that going in, so like I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah, 100%. And also, like I don't know, it seems like another cool, interesting new character.
Yeah. Totally.
The
stage, a lot of time, like the stage, I'm really excited for.
Yeah,
I think
too.
the stage is going to be really fun.
Yeah.
We also got just a tiny bit more detail about the second Fighters Pass, which is coming. It'll include 6 characters instead of the 5 from this one, which is pretty nuts. That they're like, not 10 DLC characters, but 11. Like we're just going to keep doing more.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of. I feel like it's the exact same because
like
Piranha
Plant.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's a good point. But so with the expanded roster comes an expanded price.
Yep.
It will be $29.99 to get the Fighters Pass versus $24.99 for the previous one, and then each one still costs
$6.
$6, so you save a little bit.
I mean, the pricing is the same basically. Is that if you buy them all together, you're paying $5 a piece, and if you buy them separately, you pay $6.
Yeah, great point. But other than that, that was pretty much the reveal. We got some new Mii Fighter costumes that are also coming next week on the 28th. They're still available for 75 cents each. They are Cuphead, the Gunner character that comes with a music track, Floral Fury, Altair from Assassin's Creed. Yeah, we go on like an Ubisoft run here.
Yeah.
Altair from Assassin's Creed, Rabid Hat from like the Rabid series, Mega Man X, and Mega Man.exe.
Yeah, from Battle Network. Mm-hmm. But we will be talking a lot more about Mii Fighter costumes in Thursday's episode. So if you are interested in that, come back for that.
And one thing I forgot to mention is that if you buy the new Challenger Pack or the new Fighter Pass that is out, you get a separate Mii costume, which is the Ancient Soldier from Breath of the Wild. You kind of basically look like one of the Guardians.
Yeah, and this is the only way to get that costume, is to order the Fighter Pass Volume 2, and that will be available for pre-order on the same day that Byleth is available, which is the 28th. And according to Sakurai, at any rate, all of the characters have already been picked for the new Fighters Pass, so don't bother tweeting.
Yeah.
Don't bother tweeting at him.
You can see the fear in his eyes.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Yeah. I can't. If I were Sakurai,
yeah,
I would not be on social media, and if I had a social media account, I would hire somebody to run it for me.
Yeah, I mean, or you would just mute Smash, right? You just mute the word Smash.
Yeah,
you wouldn't see any of your own tweets.
On the subject of Fire Emblem and DLC, Nintendo revealed Wave 4 of the DLC for Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
Did this sneak up on you a little bit?
It did sneak up on me a little bit.
So I know we've talked about them previously as they've been rolling out, but that they're all that they seem like really small things. Like there's a sauna, you can talk to cats.
Right.
That's all I can remember.
You're able to recruit like the merchant.
Yeah, Anna.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. But my memory is that all of that was a single pack.
No.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's been anything. Yes, I'm surprised that it's fourth.
Well,
that is the fourth one.
I know that we've also broken it down when we have read through them that like this is part of the free DLC and this is part of paid DLC, but evidently this is part of the fourth wave of paid DLC, and it is completing like the original season pass that they sold when they released the game.
Oh, this is it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So this one is pretty cool. It's called Cindered Shadows, and it introduces a new house that lives under the monastery called the Ashen Wolves, which is awesome.
Yeah, such a cool name.
It's not a fourth path through the game itself, but a side story that's accessible from the main menu and not part of your regular playthrough, so it has its own save file, all that kind of stuff. But after you complete it, you're able to recruit the people from the Ashen Wolves house into the main game. So it's like separate, but you're able to incorporate the characters later.
Also, it seems pretty cool in that you play as Byleth and then two characters from each of the three main houses, including the like heads of the house.
Right.
So you'll be playing with Claude and Dimitri and Edelgard, and also Lindhart, Ash, and Hilda. In addition to the 4 new characters from the Ashen Wolves.
Right. So it seems like the way it works is that like there's no calendar, like you don't choose your party. There's like a series of missions, and then out of the characters you just listed, it automatically says these people are in this mission, these people are in this mission, and you basically just like go through the story.
Which is actually a little bit more like traditional Fire Emblem. Like, 3 Houses is the first one to introduce this like hub that you keep going back to and like a calendar. The rest of them are kind of more just like map based, or like you just moving along like a linear line to the next battle. So this is really pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It comes out February 13th, and it's all part of the original, like you mentioned, DLC season pass for Fire Emblem. So it's like the Zelda Breath of the Wild one where you buy it all if you don't have the option to buy it piecemeal. The season pass is $24.99. You bring up an interesting point, Patrick, about like how different 3 Houses is from a lot of other Fire Emblem games. I'm super curious as to like where they take Fire Emblem from here.
Yeah.
Do they keep doing like the Fire Emblem echoes and maybe like remaking old games? But for me, like, the reason I got into Fire Emblem 3 Houses was because the school part of it and, like, the calendar, like, the teaching, like, all that kind of stuff was the thing that really drew me in. And I eventually learned to like the combat and, like, but I still played it on easy or, like, casual or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of stuff that offhand I would want them to, like, elaborate on in a future game. But I guess there still are, like, other elements, like, in Awakening, the thing where like who you have children with, like affects the outcome, like all that kind of stuff. Like,
and that's all stuff that you are like doing intentionally too.
Right.
And so like, where there's not like a school that you're actually running around, there is like a social game that you're playing. And there are similar like extra mechanics in both Shadows of Valentia and Fates, but they're all like a little bit different and have like a little bit different focus. So like whatever the next Fire Emblem game is, there will be some sort of thing that lets you sort of direct another aspect
like
of the game.
Engage with the characters.
Yeah.
But it won't necessarily, that makes a ton of sense. So like the fact that they have this like monastery the monastery is new, but having that sort of like social interaction is not new. It's just how it manifested itself in these games.
Yes, correct.
Interesting. This week, a patent that Nintendo filed back in June surfaced, showing a pen-like attachment for a Joy-Con. The idea is that basically, you know how like when you take Joy-Cons off and you're going to play snipper clips or something, it has those
the Joy-Con strap.
Yeah, that has like the buttons and everything on top that you like slide onto the rail. So
and you hope to God you put it on the right way.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and it never feels like it like is going to come off correctly. Like you're always like, I have to yank this too hard.
Right, and then you're like, these rails are kind of sharp. Am I bleeding?
So it's basically one of those.
Yeah.
But on the end of it is like a stylus, because the stylus doesn't go into it based on the pen. It's just like there's just a stylus.
It looks like just a stylus on the end of it.
End.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems stupid to me.
I don't understand the utility, really, unless you're supposed to use the whole stylus, or excuse me, the whole Joy-Con as
While
a
you're
stylus.
stylusing. I mean, that is what it would mean, but like, if you're playing a game on your Switch and you are holding the Joy-Cons and you like take the Joy-Con off, put this grip thing on, and then like use the and then
Just
like
one
take
of
it
them?
off and put it back. It's so weird.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe this will actually see the light of day, but also people put patents on things all the time that never actually turn into anything. A week or so ago, we mentioned that the European Game Ratings Board, PEGI, had issued a rating for Metro Redux on Switch.
Mm-hmm.
And well, since then, the game has actually been revealed. We thought that maybe it was coming as part of like a direct, but nope, it's just showed up. The physical edition bundles both games, which is Metro 2033 and Metro Last Light, plus all the DLC. You get it on a single game cart for $49.99, or on the eShop, you can grab each game individually for $24.99 each. So you save 1 cent if you buy it on the eShop.
That's a good deal.
It's a good deal. It's actually kind of nice because maybe I would pick up like the first one or the second one or whatever and just see if I like them before buying the whole thing. It's also interesting in the reveal, they in like the press release, they make a point of saying that it is both games, like everything, on a single 16 gigabyte cart,
which is a departure from most of these like two games bundled together, like Bayonetta, Resident Evil Revelations, which were both like the second one is a download,
right? Or probably like the most like egregious, for lack of a better term, it wasn't a big deal. But like was the Resident Evil collection that came out that had Resident Evil 4 on the cartridge, but 5 and 6 were download codes.
Right. Or like LA Noire, which was like all download.
Right.
Remember?
Right. Also last week, a rating in Taiwan appeared for BioShock the Collection on Switch. So on other platforms, the collection has included BioShock, BioShock 2, and BioShock Infinite, and all the DLC. It hasn't been officially announced yet, but kind of like Metro Redux, there's a good bet it's coming soon, and I would buy this a million times over.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I really like the first two games. I've never played Infinite.
So I've not finished any of these games. I've never touched 2. But BioShock 2 is one of those games. It's got that DLC pack, Minerva's Den, which is supposed to be like a really cool storytelling experience. That I would like to check that out. And then I don't know that there was a little bit too much gunplay in Infinite for my tastes. But I would gladly go back and play the original BioShock again.
Yeah. And finally, NPD revealed the top-selling games of the decade. And there's some interesting things to note in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no Nintendo games in the top 10.
Bummer.
But important to note that Nintendo does not provide NPD with digital sales info.
So, do we think that would make like a big difference?
No, looking at the list, like I don't really think so.
Can you give us the list of top 10, Mark?
Yeah, so it's Grand Theft Auto 5,
mm-hmm.
Call of Duty Black Ops, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Call of Duty Black Ops 3, Call of Duty Ghosts, Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty World War 2, Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Minecraft
at number 10.
Yeah, and then so that's the top 10.
Right.
Nintendo doesn't show up until the top 20.
Right.
Where Mario Kart 8 and I think Deluxe is bundled in here too.
It's gotta be,
because there's no way that Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U by itself would have mention at number 14, and then Breath of the Wild comes in at number 19.
Yeah, which is a little I mean, it's kind of a weak I mean, maybe it's just that you can't compete with the Call of Duty franchise and Rockstar, like the Grand Theft Auto 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2 are, and especially with Red Dead Redemption 2 having come out in the last like year of the decade. It's crazy that it's as high on this list as it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely nuts. And also a great reminder that in the like games community echo chamber, I feel like nobody talks about Call of Duty ever.
Yeah.
The world loves Call of Duty.
Loves
clearly. So there you go.
And then just one thing to note is that in the previous decade, I saw some lists that were resurfacing for the aughts for 2000 to 2009, that Nintendo had 3 games in the top 10. Wii Fit at number 2, Wii Play with the extra Wii remote at number 4, and Mario Kart Wii at number 8. But I also didn't see Wii Sports on that list. So what does anything mean?
I think it's
Is it just because it's bundled?
Right, because I think NPD nowadays, whenever they talk about stuff, it's all about revenue, which is why I think Wii Fit is so high up there, and that
sure, because it was also more expensive,
right? And
the balance board.
and then and I mean, it sold a ton,
yeah,
plus the extra like cost, and that's I think you're right that Wii Sports isn't on there because it was bundled, so it doesn't like count.
Right, that people were
didn't
buying
generate
the
revenue.
Wii, it generated no revenue,
Yeah.
even though it was moving systems.
Right.
Man, so how many discarded Wii balance boards are there in the universe right now?
I mean, I know that
they're under every couch.
yeah. Every entertainment center has one,
slowly yellowing under the VCR.
Also, super remarkable that Mario Kart Wii is on there. Did Wii Play? Was Wii Play extra? Was it like $10 extra since it had the remote?
Yeah, I think so. I think
super remarkable that
$60
Mario Kart is on there, because that was just the normal price of a game.
Hey, it came with that wheel. Remember the wheel?
Oh, that's right. It did come with the wheel.
Did that add to the price tag on it?
I don't think so. I think it was still just $50.
Yeah, and $50. That's right. The Wii games were a little bit cheaper.
Yeah.
I'll never understand anything, Mark. Okay, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of our show. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like this episode, you should share it with someone who wants to be lectured at about Fire Emblem characters.
Oh, we got an anonymous review on an anonymous 5-star review on Apple Podcasts this past week. So thank you to whoever do that. We're at 96, so we're just 4 away from 100.
We're knocking on 100's door. Help us kick it down by reviewing the show. You can also follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MK Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Kart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying, maybe there are too many Fire Emblem characters in Super Smash Bros. What do I know? Thanks for listening.
Have you ever encountered an unexplained hairy bipedal hominid in the woods?
Have you received telepathic messages from an unidentified aerial phenomenon?
If so, then you need to listen to Bigfoot Collectors Club. I'm Michael McMillan.
And I'm Bryce Johnson.
And together with super producer
Riley Bray,
we make up the Bigfoot Collectors Club.
That's right. Every week we talk to actors, comedians, writers, and paranormal experts about their personal paranormal histories and share stories of high strangeness.
Like the time when we talked to Craig Ferguson about the Loch Ness Monster and when a sea witch told him he had raven magic.
Or the time I asked Pitch Perfect's Anna Camp her opinion on cattle mutilations. Past guests have included Rachel Bloom, Jen Kirkman, Paul F. Tompkins, Bobcat Goldthwait, and more.
So if you've ever been abducted alongside 5 reindeer by an alien with drills for hands or witnessed Bigfoot crawl out of an interdimensional portal,
don't laugh, happens all the time.
Then check out Bigfoot Collectors Club on Campfire Media or wherever you get your podcasts.
Bigfoot Collectors Club. You're here to believe us.
Wait, is that how it goes?
Campfire.